You don't think Arsenal will finish top 10?
No, page 2. They're going to be in page 2, Arsenal, this season. First time in a long time.
Okay, so
I can see them finishing like 13th, 14th.
Are you putting your money on that now?
How much you want?
I don't know, but how much do you get these days? A tenner?
I'll put my money. I'll have a bet with you that they finish in page 2 if Arteta stays as the manager for the rest of the season.
Well, hang on a minute. You can't now change that.
What do you mean?
So what you're saying?
If they stick with Arteta, they are going to finish in the bottom half of the table.
Why do you think that?
Because look at them. They're miles off it. They've got no direction, no plan. All these young lads they've brought in are just potential, but you need leaders in the dressing room to get the best out of them. There isn't any leaders in the team.
Right, let's get more on this then, because we're going to be joined right now by former Gunners midfielder turned broadcaster Adrian Clark. Good morning, Adrian.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm trying to smile through the pain. I really am.
I know.
Do you know what? I might have a 10 over Jamie on that. I mean, come on. Top 10 has got to be achievable for Arsenal, even though it's been a miserable start to the season, even though it was a demoralising defeat last night. Surely they're good enough to finish in the top half. I do disagree with Jamie and Crookie on that one.
Adrian, how mad is it though that we're even at 7 a.m. this morning going, no, they're good enough to finish in the top half of the table. It's Arsenal.
It's not a good place to be, that's for sure.
No, Adrian. Whereas last week against Brentford, obviously I was tearing my hair out and had a few things to say about it. I didn't expect to beat Chelsea. I still also think that Arsenal are missing some massive players, so I'm reserving judgment somewhat.
I think that's fair. I really do. White and Gabriel are the first choice centre halves. They were missing. Arsenal desperately need a right back. So that's 3 back 4 that really aren't there. Thomas Partey is a huge player for them, missing. And then you've got Odegaard, Lacazette, Aubameyang. So look, these are big guys. But even so, it was evidence, wasn't it, of how far away Arsenal are from the main contenders this season. It was so convincing from Chelsea. I think that they won 2-0 in third gear, really, and Arsenal, I think, had 6 shots. Chelsea had 22. The facts were sort of laid bare in front of our eyes in terms of the golf, really. And Arsenal fans have to temper their expectations, I think, based on what they saw in this game.
Adrian, didn't you think it was like alarming though how they set up? You know, I didn't see a plan. They didn't deal with Lukaku. You know, it was just like simple things where you go, right, we've got to stop Lukaku getting the ball into the front. He was just receiving it, pinning players. You know, no one grabbed hold of the game and was like, right, we've got to change this or we've got to do something different. They were just out there playing.
From a tactical perspective, Tuchel won the game hands down. There's no argument with that. I think that what disappointed me, even though I would have set Arsenal up differently, because they were weakened, I would have been a little bit more pragmatic and focused on keeping the shape. But Mikel Arteta, man of it, went with the courage of his convictions, tried to press, tried to send 5 guys forward to try and disrupt Chelsea, but they didn't do it anywhere near well enough, and therefore you then leave yourself wide open. And from a tactical perspective, you're absolutely bang on, Jamie, that there was no screen into Romelu Lukaku. Now, Romelu Lukaku is probably the best number 9 in world football at the moment. If there's one person you don't want to receive the ball backing into a defender, it's Romelu Lukaku. And Arsenal had no screen at all. Conga and Xhaka were so far apart. Xhaka was being drawn across to Mason Mount, as was Kieran Tierney. Chelsea toyed with Arsenal positionally, and they found gaps over and over again. And the one disappointment from me is, because that can happen against great teams, and Chelsea are a really good team, that can happen. But the disappointment was that there was no reaction to it. The same mistakes kept being made in the first minute, in the 10th, in the 30th, in the 60th, and that, I think, is a problem. They've got to communicate better on the pitch and fix problems when they pop up.
Right, so this is my argument with Arsenal right now. Arteta obviously has this way of how they want to play and how he wants to do things, but they're not adapting to playing against teams like Chelsea where they're getting turned over, them situations happening. Like, everyone could see it. I could see it. If I was the manager, I would say, right, I've got to plug this gap in midfield. I've got to change it. I have a defensive midfielder to stop Lukaku getting the ball, and then we'll work from there. Or if I was a leader on the pitch, I would say, as a captain, like Xhaka or someone, say, we have to stop this happening. I don't care what the gaffer's told us. We have got to sort this out quickly because we're just going to keep getting done. But no one does anything. Nothing changes.
No, and the senior, they've got great young players, Arsenal, we know that. But the senior players do need to step up and deliver better performances and, as you rightly point out, on-field leadership, because it was crying out there for Lokonga, and Lokonga was going to press. Xhaka was having to watch Mason Mount, and it just left this huge hole for them to just slide passes into Lukaku. And they didn't do anything about it. And Tierney kept getting dragged in, and Saka wasn't tracking back. There were so many little things that needed tweaking, and I'd like to think that Mikel Arteta's trying to get that message across. But even if he can't be heard, I think the likes of Granit Xhaka and Rob Holding, more senior players there, have got to stand up and say, right, this cannot continue to happen. We have to sort this out here and now on the pitch. For me, it was crying out for a third midfielder to lend a hand, to screen the service into the forwards, and it didn't happen, unfortunately. Mikel Arteta wants to go with this 4-2-3-1. He wants to be bold and assertive, but unfortunately, at the moment, his team are not quite good enough to implement his instructions against the very best teams and hurt them. In fact, it worked the other way around. It was a slight weakness because Chelsea just picked them off. And there's a lot of work to do there, a lot of work to do on the training pitch to get things right.
Adrian, how bad could this get? Because we know that, I mean, if you look at the league table this morning, you'll have to go right down to 19th to see where Arsenal are. And I think it's Man City next, isn't it? So,
yeah.
results-wise, they've had a good start, really, haven't they, to the season? Been scoring a few
goals. It's a shocker.
Yeah. I never really want to sort of suggest that things have to change for a manager in terms of a man losing his job, but I am actually fairly fearful for Mikel Arteta because of the things that you just highlighted. A lot of that really falls at his door, doesn't it?
Yeah, look, there's a lot of pressure on Mikel Arteta. I don't think we can, anyone can deny that, because results matter, don't they, in the management game. All I will say is that I would be surprised if Arsenal were to give him all this money for all of these younger players that he's requested, because he does want to work with younger players, high energy, players with potential, to then make a change. I just think that they will give him time, but it's result dependent. I think that clearly the Norwich game after the international break and the Burnley one after that they've become kind of not must-wins for his job, but must-wins for Arsenal and their morale and their spirit, just to get their season going. Because let's face it, City away next weekend is likely to end in another defeat. So that could be 3 out of 3. Yeah, it might have to get worse before it gets better. I'm not writing off Arsenal's season. I'm really not. I think they've got too many good young players, too many quality players to come back into the team to write them off. But I must confess that there's an awful lot of work that needs to be done on the team from a tactical point of view to get them to the level that they need to be.
Yeah.
talkSPORT Breakfast with Laura Woods. Monday to Wednesday mornings 6 till 10. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.